Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is March 21st here in southern Mississauga, Southern Ontario, Zone 6B. So we have lovely, cool, bright summer spring day, and I'm out here today because I picked up our first bare root fruit trees. So I'm very excited, as you can tell. So I just brought them home from Silver Creek Nursery, which is a lovely local nursery that I wanted to support too. I wanted trees that were that grew up in the same environment that they're going to be living in. So I picked the closest nursery that I could find that offered a really good selection of healthy bare root stock, and that's what they focus on. That's what they do. So here I am now. And I've just started, almost completed, hopefully, digging a hole in one of the areas where I'm going to be putting my dwarf apple tree. And I'm sort of pre-digging. So the weather has been nice and warm. As you can see, the soil has thawed, so it's workable, which is really, you want to get your bare root trees in, and bare perennials in general. But bare root trees in when it's like this. It's cool. Other trees haven't woken up yet, like, the lilac over here is, just starting to bud. So things are just starting to wake up, but we want to put our bare root stock in when they're asleep so that they can sort of wake up in their new home naturally and gently. This is the pear that we've had for a couple of years now, but I did not plant it and it's not doing so great. This is not my finest work. This is not my work, so I'm not going to showcase it, but there's a pear, so it's still dormant. There's no buds on it, or there are buds, but they're not opening. So this is the time to do it. And really the hard frosts hopefully are over, but if there is a frost, the tree will be fine because it is still dormant. But this is the time to start thinking about it. As soon as the ground can be worked, as soon as you can dig a hole, you really want to start, planting your bare root trees and getting them all settled. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, and preparing the holes first, preparing the spaces for them first, because if you can't hear it, I have a bit of a cold and I don't know how much energy I have. So I don't want to unwrap the package with the bare root trees in it where they're nice and snug and kept cool and moist with the sawdust packed around their roots. I don't want to rip them out and maybe just get to planting one of them today and then have the other three sitting around trying to keep them moist. So I'm just going to prep my holes, which sounds super weird. I'm going to prep my planting locations in the ground, and then see, hopefully, if I'm feeling good enough, I'm going to get them in the ground today, and if not, then I'll do that tomorrow or over the weekend. But I'm going to try and see how much energy I have for all this digging today. So wish me luck, and I'll keep you posted. So as I'm digging down, I'm actually putting the soil that I dig up in either a wheelbarrow that I have over there next to my first area, or I'm just putting it in these extra grow bags that I have lying around that are empty right now, so that I can then easily top off and return the native soil to bury the plant roots and the tree roots. And I also kind of want to keep the topsoil separate. So when I dig up the top part and the top, I want to say 6 inches of soil, you can kind of tell the layers are different. You want to make sure you turn that to the top. And the reason that being is that naturally plants get the nutrients that they need from the topsoil, which the nutrients leach down when it rains and slowly, gradually kind of come to the roots, and the roots reach for them and get them and channel them to the plant. So I'm just trying to keep kind of the same idea, the same layers that the tree would normally have without being disturbed. You definitely don't want to add any compost to the base of this hole that you're preparing. You don't want to add any fertilizers. You don't want to add any nutrients that aren't already there, because it can burn your tree roots. And just to be clear, it doesn't matter if it's organic or not. It's the same idea. You still have the nutrients that the tree will take in, or any plant will take in, come in the form of salts, which are potassium, nitrogen, and phosphorus mainly, plus others, but those are the main ones. And whether they're organic or inorganic, in terms of fertilizer, if you put too much, or if you put it right next to the root, it will damage the root because it will disrupt, it will essentially take out the moisture from the roots. So don't add anything in. You can amend the topsoil. You can put a little bit of sprinkle, and I'll show you guys later when I'm planting my trees. I am going to add a little something to the topsoil to give the trees a sort of steady feeding for the first year or so. Okay, so here we are ready to get our bare root plants, fruit trees in the ground. And so I just got a 5-gallon bucket of water, and I have this Root Rescue mycorrhizal fungi inoculant that I dumped into this 5-gallon bucket, and it just kind of has this browny gray kind of ashy color. So I just dumped that in there, and I'm going to stir it around, and then I'm going to use put all 4 of my bare root trees. So this is what they look like. They compact in wet sawdust, and they're essentially just whips, that are going to go into don't mind my messy shed, but they're going to go and get soaked in this mycorrhizal fungi solution for at least half an hour before I get them planted. So this is just going to make sure that the roots get inoculated and are nice and wet. And when I get them planted, I'm going to dump the rest of this solution around the roots in addition to watering, because this is probably not going to be enough to get all 4 fruit trees watered, but this is going to help inoculate the roots, and it is something that was recommended to me by the nursery, so I'm going to go ahead and do that to give the trees the best chance possible at succeeding, and go from there. So here we are, and I'm just doing this in the shed to avoid the sunshine because it is quite sunny today, and I just want to give the roots as much protection as possible. They don't really like, plants don't really like light on their roots, and these are bare rooted plants. So I'm just doing this in the cool shade of my shed. And you can see there's even a little bit of sunlight coming through the window. It is pretty sunny out there, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do this in the kind of shade of the shed, and get this packet off of the root ball, dust off the saw, and get them soaking in this mycorrhizal fungi solution for half an hour at least, and then get them potted, planted in the ground. Okay, so we are getting ready to plant our first bare root tree, and this is a freedom apple, and it is a dwarf variety. So it's the smallest option that you can get, and this is a tree that's going to need to be staked its entire life because it is going to be quite tiny. So it's going to need a little bit of support to be able to carry, especially once it's kind of to resist wind, snow, and then to carry the apples that it's hopefully going to produce. So this is the freedom apple. And I actually got this because the freedom apple is one of the most resistant varieties to fire blight and some other things that I actually did notice that some of our fruit trees struggle with, specifically fire blight last year. So I did treat with copper. However, I wanted a really nice and resistant variety, so this is going to be the truly resistant variety that I'm actually going to be kind of planting in the extension of the garden bed that we have going on here. It's kind of hard to see because it's still very much brown and asleep, but this is going to go in here. And when you're planting, what you want to make sure is that the graft point, which is right here. So when fruit trees are grown and cultivated, there is the rootstock. So they pick really hardy, great roots that grow well and quickly in the type of soil that you want, and then they take the rootstock and then they graft on for flavor and for the fruit of for the actual fruit part, the apple part that we're eating, which is this. But you want the graft to be above ground. So I'm actually going to plant this so the soil is right up to there. And I can see that my planting area and the hole is large enough, definitely large enough. I'm actually going to put a little bit of soil underneath so that the roots can kind of just sit on top of there, and then backfill it, and then I'm going to prune the tree. And in the first I believe 3 years, but definitely for the first year or two, we're going to be heavily pruning, because our priority is for this little whip of a tree to develop really strong roots and really strong root system and a really solid trunk and branches before we're going to allow it to fruit. So we're not going to see any fruit from this tree for 2-3 years, more like 3 to 5 years, but I'm going to go ahead and snip probably about there. So that's the entire side of the tree, and the third is probably going to be around here. Just going to go ahead and do a heading cut. I'm going to cut right there, and then just make sure that I water this really well over the next year of it getting established. I'm going to water it once a week if it's not raining. And the beautiful thing about planting early in spring is that hopefully we're going to get plenty of rain, so I will only have to supplement watering occasionally, but it definitely will keep an eye on it. So we're going to get started and just get this planted in and go from there. Okay, so I've filled up the hole a little bit more so that I can have the graft point about 6 inches above the soil, which would be right here. So just took my spade to give me an idea of the level, and I can see that the soil is going to reach and cover the roots nicely on all sides. And I also want to make sure, when I'm considering the size of this hole, I want to make sure that all of the roots and the longest root has enough space. So I want to make sure that all the roots are sort of going to be able to splay out and grow in every direction. And I'm going to check and make sure that the longest root has enough reach, enough of a diameter here to be able to comfortably exist. Okay, so at this point I just put enough soil on the roots that the tree stands upright. And I'm actually, before I'm going to fill it up more, I'm actually going to take some of my mycorrhizal liquid that the roots were soaking in before, and I'm just going to spread that around the bottom of the roots before I keep filling up. And I'm going to make sure that once I have a little bit more soil, I'm going to make sure that the whole area is nice and wet and saturated before covering it back up with the mulch, in my case the wood chips that I have here, and doing a heading cut and pruning it, and then leaving it be. Oh, and staking it and then leaving it be. Okay, so we are moving along in planting our berry fruit trees. I just almost finished planting the Golden Delicious, which is a semi-dwarf variety. And again, the placement has been really important because this is not a full-size tree. So semi-dwarf means that it's not going to get as big and as tall as a full-sized fruit tree would. And so it is not going to shade the vegetable beds behind me as much as a full-grown tree would. So this is sort of an aesthetic choice as well. And I'll definitely do a tour and talk more to the design of the garden later on, when it is a little bit more visible and nature is a little bit more awake. But for now, I just wanted to walk through an additional step that I'm going to be doing. So as I'm planting this tree, every maybe 6 inches or so of soil that I added onto the roots, I would stamp it down and just kind of walk on it gently and add a little bit of the mycorrhizal solution that the roots were soaking in, and as well as just kind of watering the dig hole so that the soil is nice and saturated, and if there's any air pockets, then the soil has and the water has the opportunity to penetrate and kind of bring that soil in. We don't really want any holes in there. And the last step, before I actually go ahead and pack this down a little bit more to make sure that the roots are firm in place and the tree's not going to fall over, I'm going to add some micronized azomite dust. Now, don't ask me the science. I don't know if this is going to make a difference, and this is something that was recommended again by the tree grower, and I'm going by the expert. And again, I got my trees from Silver Creek Nursery, up an hour and a half away from Toronto, which is lovely. And this is just something that has been recommended as an addition to kind of help the roots establish and add some more of that, more nutrients to the tree to get it started. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a little scoop of this, and it is very, very dusty, and there is a warning on the label, so it's not too windy right now. I'm going to be careful, but you just want to spread this around. It is very fine, as you can kind of see, but you just want to spread this around. I just want it to kind of blow in the wind, spread it around, and work it into the top final inch of the topsoil. Oh, there's a little earthworm. Hi, guy. Hi, little guy. And just to inoculate and give that soil some benefit, and hopefully that's going to help the tree establish itself and get some more nutrients from the soil. Okay, and then I'm just going to actually step on a little bit, and it's interesting, even as it looks packed, you can see the tree still even moving a little bit as I do this, just firming down the roots and try not to step on this little earthworm that has decided to come to the surface. And just, I'm not being too aggressive here. Like, I'm not, trying to compact the soil. You definitely want it to be firmly pressed down. And this is feeling a little bit wobbly as I do this. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pour some more water here. I'm gonna let that, give it a moment to seep in, and then again pack it down a little bit, and then go ahead and cover up with the wood chips. And the important thing with the wood chips, or any mulch that you're going to use, is not to allow it to touch the trunk, because you don't want there to be too much moisture around the bark, and you don't want to, you don't essentially want to trap moisture or allow any kind of pathogens to get in there. So you want to create kind of, instead of doing a volcano where a lot of people make this mistake, and I'm sure if you watch any videos about tree planting, you would have seen this. You don't want to do a volcano, like you don't want to bury the stem, the trunk of your tree. You want to do more of a donut shape. So you want to give the space in the middle, and then you want to kind of do the donut. So you're covering essentially the roots and the span of the roots, or the drip line as we would refer to it, instead of focusing on the trunk. Okay, so here we are, and we are finished planting all 4 bare root trees. And here's our little baby dwarf freedom apple, which I'm so excited about. Look how cute he is. And I'm gonna name all of these actually as well. So names to be determined, but I'll get back to you. Or maybe not. Maybe they'll be secret and just for me. Either way, as you can see, this one I've already put the mulch back on. I will throw a little bit more fresh mulch on here as well. I put the tree guard up just because we have a lot of bunnies in the area, and our backyard is not fully fenced off. So I definitely wanted to protect it because they're hungry this time of year, and this is fresh young shoots that they'll just chomp right through. A bamboo stake this tree so that it can still wiggle and move around in the wind, so that the trunk can strengthen and build up, but it's not going to topple over. So hopefully this will be enough. I've never staked a tree before, but I think, hopefully, fingers crossed, that this is good to go. And I will do some follow-up research on this as well, just in case. And now comes the scary / sad part, maybe, which is the moment of pruning. So we have to take about 1/3 of this tree down. So we've got, I would say this is about half. I would say this is probably about 1/3. So I'm going to make, and there's a bud right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a cut right there. And there you go. So now we have a heading cut, and this is going to now branch out. And what you want, the rule of thumb is to have the first cut about between your knee and your hip and no higher. So this is actually even a little bit tall, and I might go a little bit lower. So I'm actually going to go a little bit lower and go down to this bud here. I'm going to make a cut there. And that's going to heal over, and then we're going to get the branching out at this level, because you essentially want to be able to pick your fruit easily, and you want it to be to your bottom branches to start out about there. So that's where we're going to end off. I'm going to do the same thing to the other ones. Definitely not a tree expert, definitely not a pruning expert, but there's a really great list of videos and resources out there, including Silver Creek Nursery, and My Gardener, and a bunch of others, and I'll definitely link below to the resources that I used in the research of finding my trees and understanding tree care as a beginner fruit tree grower. And there you have it. So on they grow, and I'll see you guys next time.